Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. Today we've got kind of like a spur of the moment type of thing. You know, every now and then you're having conversations with people, you're listening to stuff, and you're like, you know what, that conversation or that little listening experience might make a really cool show on the YouTube channel, right? So if you've been following, you know we've done plenty of Jethro Tull related shows over the years. Well, you know, lately I've been listening to this and to this quite a bit. And if you've been buying or checking out any of the, you know, Jethro Tull book box sets, you know, reissues, Steven Wilson remixes, so on and so forth over the years, last bunch of years, you'll know that each of these contain a wealth of cool unreleased material. And quite frankly, you know, Jethro Tull is one of those bands that for years has always like unearthed all sorts of gems from the vaults, the fully realized songs that they never included on albums. You know, they're one of those rare bands that do that. They would always go into the studio for every album, record a lot more than they need, shelve, you know, whatever they're not going to use for the album. And then, you know, these songs would kind of pop up here. They would pop up on reissues. They would pop up on specific compilations and greatest hits, box sets, all that kind of stuff. In fact, you know, the original, the Living in the Past double album, which was released back in the early 70s, that was, basically that's what that was. That was, okay, we're going to release an album of all this extra stuff that we've done that were either singles or B-sides or stuff we just didn't release at all. And terrific album with terrific songs, and quite frankly, a lot of their like leftover tracks and B-sides and things are just as good as the stuff that wound up on the albums from recorded at those same sessions. So this kind of was prompted by a little side discussion I was having with Anthony Farrar, loyal Sea of Tranquility viewer and fellow Near Fest attendee from way back, and he and I were talking about these box sets and how Tull is like one of those few bands that always has all these great songs that they pull out from the vaults. And even when you thought that you've heard everything that Ian Anderson had in his tape boxes, they put out another box set and boom, there's some more songs from that particular album session. So I thought, wouldn't it be a cool idea because I don't think I picked any of the like bonus track rare songs in my top 10 song show for Tull that I did last year. So I figured, well, how about we do a Jethro Tull top 10 like bonus tracks and rarities? Okay. And I specifically didn't want to pick anything from the Living in the Past album because those were all available, you know, readily, domestically, you know, all over the world for everybody to hear on that particular album. And I wanted to kind of go for the stuff that maybe kind of, you know, crept into a greatest hits that if you didn't buy the greatest hits, you didn't get it. Crept into one of, you know, the 20th anniversary box set. If you didn't get that, you didn't hear any of this stuff. Or, you know, maybe the Nightcap session, the Nightcap album, okay. Or, you know, any of the bonus tracks that are on any of these recent box sets that have come out over the last, you know, 5, 6, 7 years. So that's kind of what I did. So I have a bunch of honorable mentions, but I want to kind of stick to my top 10. And these are among my favorites. And quite frankly, I think these songs are just as good as a lot of the tracks from the albums they came from. So, excuse me. I'm going to start off with my number 10. Got a little tickle in the throat here. We're going to go back to the Aqualung sessions for my number 10, which is Lick Your Fingers Clean. Again, a song that most people probably have heard by now. I would think so. That one was included on the reissues and remasters of Aqualung over the years, but again, not on the original LP. Really cool, kind of quirky, hard rocker with all the Jethro Tull characteristics. Always dug that quite a bit. Next up, number 9, I'm going to go to Silver River Turning, which was recorded between the Rock Island and Catfish Rising albums, so right about like 1990. Again, if you like the kind of late 80s, early 90s Jethro Tull, it's kind of bluesy, but yet it's got some good hard rock guitars. It's got cool flute, good vocals from Ian. It's just a real kind of classy rocker from the band. I dig that one a lot. In fact, I might even like Silver River Turning better than anything that wound up on Catfish Rising. Really good song. And that's the case with a lot of these. They're just great songs. It's like, man, this would have slotted right into the regular album and might even be better than some of the tracks on there. Number 8 for me is going to be Saturation from the War Child era. I think Saturation is a killer song with some great guitar work from Martin Barre. And, War Child is kind of a weird album. It's kind of whimsical. It's like, you can kind of tell like a Passion Play and War Child was all kind of created right around the same time. But I think Saturation, a little more of a serious track. It's got cool keyboards from John Evan and great flute. Really, really cool tune, and it rocks quite a bit. Number 7, recorded in the early 80s, I believe 1981, so right between A and Broadsword and the Beast. Crew Nights, great melodic song, got good anthemic chorus. Again, really good. Love the flute playing on this. Good riffs from Martin. Killer song. Number 6, going to go back to War Child era. A lot of really good stuff recorded during the War Child Passion Play albums, as far as like stuff that they wound up not using. Rainbow Blues, very majestic and regal kind of driving rock song. That was originally available on like a very early like kind of hits collection. All right, that came out in the latter 70s, so that track kind of sat around in the vaults for a few years. Always loved Rainbow Blues. Is probably one of the first of the Jethro Tull rarities, B-sides, leftovers, and whatnot that I started to really pay attention to. I was like, you know what? All of a sudden, it's like, yeah, I love that Rainbow Blues tune. And it's like, should I go buy the greatest hits, that greatest hits set? I think it was the MU greatest hits set, if I remember correctly. It's like, well, I don't really need it because I have everything on it, but, Rainbow Blues and Glory Road, what is that? That's when I finally start to realize that, you know what? Tull's got a lot of stuff sitting around that they didn't use on the albums. Number 5, and this is a recent discovery. Okay, I just got the Stormwatch box set, and here you have this song called Urban Apocalypse, which was not released on the original Stormwatch remaster reissue. Okay, not released anywhere else. All of a sudden, they put out this box set, and boom, there you have another. And there's a couple of them on this Stormwatch box set release. Urban Apocalypse is amazing. Amazing song. I just got this recently, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, holy cow, how did Ian hold on to this song for all these years? Smart guy. Get more people to buy the box sets, right? Check out Urban Apocalypse if you have not, from the Stormwatch sessions. Next up, going to go back to War Child era again. For number 4, Paradise Steakhouse, which was included on the Nightcap collection. Paradise Steakhouse. Really good, upbeat, great flute, great melody. Killer guitar solo. Love the chorus. Again, it's kind of got that grand, majestic Jethro Tull feel. How it was left off the original album, don't know. Number 3, the Broadsword and the Beast album sessions for a song that I probably like better than anything on. And I like Broadsword, but I like this song better than any other song off the regular album, and that's Jacqueline. I love the way the song builds. It's like this kind of gorgeous, majestic piece, kind of proggy piece, and then it starts to build. The riffs get heavier. Ian's vocal is just awesome. I love I love the progression of that song all the way through, and I just have a hard time believing that was deemed maybe not good enough for the album at the time, because it's damn good. My number 1 and 2 kind of go together. They both kind of segue into each other, and I almost listed them as one song, but if I did that, then I'd have to add a couple more to it, so I figured, all right, I'll list them both. So originally, Jethro Tull went into the studio to record what eventually was a Passion Play. They did a whole other album, okay, which is known as the Chateau Disaster album, or the Chateau Disaster tapes, where they recorded this whole album, and Ian and the guys weren't really Paris, the Chateau. I forget the rest of the name of the studio. Many bands have recorded albums here, and they didn't like the acoustics. They were having issues with some of the tape machines and so on and so forth. And in the end, they were like, you know what? We're not happy with how this turned out. So they decided to scrap the whole album and go to another studio and re-record it completely differently and change things around. So there you had a Passion Play, which was almost kind of like the sequel to Thick as a Brick, basically one long song broken up into 2 segments, right? Using pieces from the Chateau Disaster sessions, and also stuff, because there was stuff on the Chateau Disaster sessions, which also wound up being on War Child. So like the Chateau Disaster material wound up getting dissected, picked apart, and becoming a Passion Play as well as War Child. And those tapes like sat around for years until they released the Nightcap session, the double disc set back in the 90s, 1994. And Ian went and added some fluting spots, and they kind of, edited things around and what have you. And I remember thinking, like, my God, this album is great. And it's, very different from the Passion Play. Some similarities in spots, but very, very different. A totally different beast. It rocks really hard. And then when they released the Passion Play box set a couple years ago, they actually released the Chateau Disaster tapes in their entirety the way they were originally recorded and put together. So it's different than the stuff that you hear on Nightcap. It's arranged differently, the songs different orders, some other things that were taken out for Nightcap put back in, some of the extra flute I think that Ian and Anderson had added for Nightcap was taken out. Stephen Wilson kind of remixed the whole thing. Anyway, long story short, it's a great album. It's a really good album. And again, what was wrong with it, I don't know. To these ears, they sound great. My number 2 is going to be a song called Audition. And my number 1 is going to be a song called No Rehearsal. They both, like I said, they both segue into each other. They're both Tull at their hardest rocking. Killer guitar work from Martin Barre. I love the melodies are great. The vocals are great. They're serious driving numbers. And, the lyrics are all about, as you can tell, about, auditioning and getting a role. And I believe it's a play they're talking about, and how, coming up for rehearsal, showing up for the rehearsals. There are no rehearsals, all this kind of stuff that like an actor would go through. And just really, really cool stuff. And again, if you've never heard the Chateau Disaster tapes, you need to. Absolutely killer. I love a Passion Play. I do. The more, as years go on, the more I listen to the Chateau Disaster tapes, the more I think I like the original album a little bit better. But they're both great, right? So there you have my top 10. Jethro Tull, bonus tracks, rarities, all that sort of stuff. Now, as far as like the other stuff, which was available pretty readily beforehand, Witch's Promise. Obviously, I originally put Teacher in my list, but then, you know what? That was released as a single in the UK, but that was on the Benefit album here in the US. So that didn't really, couldn't really put that in there. Crossword, Kelpie, Man of God, also that's from the Stormwatch box set, killer song, which is Glory Row, Old Aces, Die Hard, Summer Day Sands, Dr. Brogan Broom, Living in the Past. I really wanted to put Living in the Past on here, but that's, everybody's heard that song. That was on the Living in the Past album. Didn't want to do that. Same with Sweet Dream. For later, you got Driving Song, Beltane. A comma, Beltane. Great song. Everything in Our Lives, another fantastic song. Botanic Man, Living in These Hard Times. Did I include Paradise Steakhouse? Yes, I did. Yep, I did. I got them listed twice here. Scenario, another song off of the Chateau Disaster tapes. Jack Frost and the Hooded Crow. Really love that song a lot. Motorize, Sea Lion 2, Commons Brawl, 17, and I'm Your Gun. There's a lot more where those came from. But, like I said, my favorites are number 1, No Rehearsal. Number 2, Audition. Number 3, Jacqueline. Number 4, Paradise Steakhouse. Number 5, Urban Apocalypse. Number 6, Rainbow Blues. Number 7, Crew Nights. Number 8, Saturation. Number 9, Silver River Turning. And number 10, Lick Your Fingers Clean. There you have it. My top 10 songs from the Jethro Tull Rarities box, bonus tracks, leftovers, whatever you want to call it. Curious to see what you Tull fans think. What are some of your favorite Jethro Tull Rarities, B-sides, bonus tracks, stuff from the vault? That's what I should call it. Stuff from the vault. Anyway, this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Hope everybody has a great day. We will see you tomorrow, all right? Take care. Bye-bye.